Billionaire CEO chokes on sandwich, saved by beggar girl and marries her. He was the most powerful man in the city, until a single bite nearly ended it all. Choking. Alone. No one could help. Except her. A girl with nothing. A girl they called unlucky. A girl he once pushed away. But when she saved his life with nothing but her hands and heart, he saw what money couldn't buy. And what happened next? He gave her everything, including his name. Stay till the end, because this isn't just about saving a life. It's about changing one. The sandwich that changed everything. There's a strange thing about life at the top. It's lonely. Mr. Goo Han, CEO of Goo International Holdings, was used to being in control. His empire stretched across continents, his name echoed in boardrooms, and his decisions shaped economies. Yet, for all the power he wielded, there was one moment he could never have foreseen, the day a simple sandwich would bring him to his knees. It was an ordinary afternoon, or so he thought. The sun blazed over the city skyline, its golden hue bouncing off the glass towers that reached for the heavens. Goo Han sat in his sleek black office, floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, the world at his feet. Meetings had drained him, deals had been signed, and for the first time in days, he allowed himself something small. A break. A sandwich. Not a gourmet dish, not something flown in from Paris or Milan, just a simple, hastily prepared sandwich from the company cafe. It wasn't about luxury today, it was about a few quiet minutes to himself. But as he took that first bite, something went horribly wrong. A sharp pain. A gasp. His hands clawed at his throat. He couldn't breathe. Alone in his office, Goo Han stumbled, knocking over papers, grasping for anyone. But there was no one. His assistant was out. His phone? Too far. His vision blurred. The room tilted. Is this how it ends? He thought. Not in a boardroom, not in a car crash, but here, with a damn sandwich? But fate had other plans. Downstairs, on the street below, the city buzzed like any other day. People passed by, lost in their own lives, their own problems, and among them, unnoticed by most, sat a young woman on the curb. Her clothes were worn, her hair pulled back in a messy braid. A small cardboard sign lay beside her feet, its letters faded. Will work for food. Her name was Shen Mo, though few bothered to ask. She wasn't always like this. There had been a time long ago when she had dreams, when she believed the world was fair. But life had other plans, cruel plans. Now survival was her only goal. But Shen Mo was no ordinary woman. Beneath her rough exterior, behind the tired eyes, was a mind sharp as a scalpel, and a heart that refused to harden. She was trained, a healer by birth, a doctor by passion. But credentials meant nothing when you had no one to believe in you. That day, as she sat watching the hurried world pass her by, something strange caught her eye. A commotion. A man running, shouting. The CEO, something's wrong with Mr. Goo, he's choking. Her heart raced. Without thinking, without waiting, Shen Mo rose. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She ran. Up the marble steps, past the guards too shocked to stop her, through the gilded halls of power she had never been allowed to enter. And there he was, collapsed, pale, dying. Mr. Goo, the man whose face was in every business magazine, whose fortune could rebuild cities, lay helpless. And no one knew what to do. But she did. "Move!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. "I'm a doctor. Let me through." They hesitated. She didn't look the part. She didn't belong. But Goo Han's life was slipping fast. Shen Mo didn't wait. She dropped to her knees, tilted his head, and with the calm of someone who had done this 1,000 times, she acted. Her hands were steady, her mind was clear. Compress, breathe, compress. "Come on," she whispered. "You're not dying today." And then he gasped. A ragged, desperate breath tore through his chest. His eyes flew open, wild, disoriented. and the first thing he saw was her. The room was silent. No one moved. Shen Mo sat back, her own breath heavy, eyes locked with his. "You're okay now," she said softly. But Goo Han didn't feel okay. He felt something he hadn't in years. Vulnerable. Later, as paramedics arrived and his team swarmed, as questions flew and accusations rained down on her for daring to touch him, Goo Han did something no one expected. He stopped them. "Let her stay." "But sir, I said let her stay." That night, alone in his penthouse, Goo Han couldn't sleep. Who was she? Why did she risk everything? And why, when he looked in her eyes, did he feel like she'd saved more than just his life? This wasn't just gratitude. This was fate. And Goo Han never let fate pass him by. Section 1. The Stranger's Secret. The night air was heavy with silence, the kind that clung to the skin and made even the loudest city seem still. Goo Han sat by the large bay window in his penthouse, watching the lights of the city flicker below. The choking incident earlier should have been just a footnote in a long day. Something to laugh off, something to bury in the back of his mind. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. The girl with the tired eyes and rough hands. The girl who had knelt beside him, not for money, not for fame, but because she couldn't not help. His world wasn't built on favors. He didn't believe in debts or fate. Life was about control, strategies, assets, risks you could calculate. But none of this added up. "Mr. Goo." His assistant's voice broke the silence, hesitant at the doorway. Goo Han didn't turn. "And she's downstairs." That got his attention. "She who?" "The girl, the one who saved you." His brow furrowed. "She's here?" "She wouldn't leave without seeing you. Said she didn't want anything, just a word." Goo Han stood slowly, adjusting his jacket. "Bring her up." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Shen Mo stepped out, clutching her bag tightly, eyes darting around the vastness of the room. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers. It wasn't just another world, it was another universe. She didn't belong here, she knew it. But she couldn't walk away, not yet. "You're braver than most," Goo Han said, emerging from the shadows of the room. Shen Mo looked up, startled. "I don't know about that," she replied quietly. "I just couldn't leave." "You didn't have to do what you did." "Once I got there, I saw someone in trouble." He stepped closer, studying her face. "You're not just some girl on the street, are you?" She stiffened. "What do you mean?" "You knew what to do, perfectly, calmly. That's not something you learn from life on the sidewalk." Her gaze faltered. "You're a doctor." "Was," she corrected softly. "Not anymore." There was a pause, thick with things unsaid. He asked. She shook her head. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." "I don't need your help, Mr. Goo. I just wanted to know you were okay." "That's it?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "No favor, no money." "I'm not here for that." Goo Han had faced men with knives behind their backs and smiles on their lips. He had faced enemies in suits more dangerous than bullets. But this girl, he was unreadable, unshakable. "Stay," he said suddenly. Shen Mo blinked. "What?" "You saved my life. Stay, just for tonight. Let me repay you." "I'm not for sale," she snapped, turning toward the door. But his voice stopped her. "I didn't mean it like that." She paused. "Let me give you something better than money," he continued. "Safety, a roof, just for one night." She hesitated, her fingers brushing the cold metal of the doorknob. "I don't trust easily," she whispered. "Neither do I." She turned, her eyes meeting his once more. "Expect on Sunday night." "Expecting my name?" The guest room was more luxurious than any place she'd known. The sheets were like clouds, the walls silent, untouched by the world outside. "Back," Yet sleep didn't come easy. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, memories chasing her in the dark. A time when she wore a white coat, when her hands saved lives in clean, bright rooms. A time before betrayal, before lies. Before she lost everything. In his room, Goo Han poured himself a drink, his mind spinning. Who was this woman? And why did it feel like she wasn't just part of his past day, but part of his future? Outside, the city moved on. But inside, something had shifted. Two lives, once worlds apart, now collided. And neither would ever be the same again. In Section 2, the night she couldn't hide. Rain clattered against the windows like a warning, relentless and cold. The kind of storm that made New York City feel like a cage of glass and steel. But inside Goo Han's penthouse, the world was unusually still. Shen Mo sat on the edge of the guest bed, hair damp, fingers clasped tightly in her lap. She'd said yes to one night, just one, a warm room, a locked door, a quiet to rest her bones and hush the past. But the past had never learned how to stay quiet. She tiptoed into the kitchen, hoping for something to calm her nerves. The marble floors were cold against her bare feet, the silence deafening. She didn't expect him to be there, but he was. Leaning against the counter, sleeves rolled up, a glass of whiskey in hand, Goo Han looked less like the cold CEO and more like a man who couldn't sleep either. Couldn't rest? He asked without turning. Shen Mo froze. No, too quiet. He chuckled. Funny, I built this place to escape noise, but sometimes the silence screams louder. She stepped closer, the soft light casting gold on her cheekbones. Why are you being kind to me? He didn't answer right away. He stared into his drink like it held a secret. Because you didn't treat me like a billionaire choking on a sandwich, he said finally. You treated me like a man. Shen Mo swallowed. You don't owe me anything. I know. Then why offer me a place to stay? I don't offer charity, Miss Shen. I offer choices. Her brows knit. What does that mean? It means I see something in you. He set down the glass and turned to face her. A strength, a story, and maybe I want to know how it ends. A beat passed. The storm outside roared. I used to be a surgeon, she whispered. Pediatric trauma. I saved children. I thought I had a future. What happened? He asked, voice low. A boy died, and her voice cracked. They said I didn't follow protocol. They needed someone to blame. His jaw tightened. So they chose you. She nodded, eyes brimming. I lost everything. My license, my father's respect, my name. So I ran. Goo Han's voice softened. And the girls I saw you with? Shen Mo flinched. Not mine, my sister's. She died in a fire last year. I've been raising them since. The room seemed to shrink with the weight of her truth. You're stronger than you think, he said. And she laughed bitterly. I'm barely surviving. Surviving takes more strength than most people know. A silence stretched between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was, someone is coming. You ever wish you could start over? She asked. He looked out the window. Every day. She turned away. Well, not all of us get to. His next words made her stop in her tracks. Then maybe it's time someone helped you. Later that night, long after she returned to her room and he returned to his, Goo Han stood at the balcony, rain soaking his dress shirt. He didn't care. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about stocks or mergers or boardroom wars. He was thinking about her. A stranger with fire behind her eyes and shadows in her soul. A woman who saved him, not just from choking, but from a life that had grown numb. In the guest room, Shen Mo stared at the ceiling again, but this time it wasn't fear that kept her awake. It was the terrifying, beautiful feeling that she might have finally been seen. And worse, that she didn't want to leave in the morning. Not anymore. In Section 2. The night she couldn't hide. Rain clattered against the windows like a warning, relentless and cold. The kind of storm that made New York City feel like a cage of glass and steel. But inside Goo Han's penthouse, the world was unusually still. Shen Mo sat on the edge of the guest bed, hair damp, fingers clasped tightly in her lap. She'd said yes to one night, just one. A warm room, a locked door, a quiet to rest her bones and hush the past. But the past had never learned how to stay quiet. She tiptoed into the kitchen, hoping for something to calm her nerves. The marble floors were cold against her bare feet, the silence deafening. She didn't expect him to be there. But he was. Leaning against the counter, sleeves rolled up, a glass of whiskey in hand, Goo Han looked less like the cold CEO and more like a man who couldn't sleep either. "Couldn't rest?" he asked, without turning. Shen Mo froze. "No. Too quiet." He chuckled. "Funny. I built this place to escape noise, but sometimes the silence screams louder." She stepped closer, the soft light casting gold on her cheekbones. "Why are you being kind to me?" He didn't answer right away. He stared into his drink like it held a secret. "Because you didn't treat me like a billionaire choking on a sandwich," he said finally. "You treated me like a man." Shen Mo swallowed. "You don't owe me anything." "I know." "Then why offer me a place to stay?" "I don't offer charity, Miss Shen. I offer choices." Her brows knit. "What does that mean?" "It means I see something in you." He set down the glass and turned to face her. "A strength, a story, and maybe I want to know how it ends." A beat passed. The storm outside roared. "I used to be a surgeon," she whispered. "Pediatric trauma. I saved children. I thought I had a future." "What happened?" he asked, voice low. "A boy died, and Her voice cracked. "They said I didn't follow protocol. They needed someone to blame." His jaw tightened. "So they chose you." She nodded, eyes brimming. "I lost everything. My license, my father's respect, my name. So I ran." Goo Han's voice softened. "And the girls I saw you with." Shen Mo flinched. "Not mine, my sister's. She died in a fire last year. I've been raising them since." The room seemed to shrink with the weight of her truth. "You're stronger than you think," he said. She laughed bitterly. "I'm barely surviving." "Surviving takes more strength than most people know." A silence stretched between them. But it wasn't awkward. It was silence when awkward it was. "You ever wish you could start over?" she asked. He looked out the window. "Every day." And she turned away. "Well, not all of us get to." His next words made her stop in her tracks. "Then maybe it's time someone helped you." Later that night, long after she returned to her room and he returned to his, Goo Han stood at the balcony, rain soaking his dress shirt. He didn't care. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about stocks or mergers or boardroom wars. He was thinking about her. A stranger with fire behind her eyes and shadows in her soul. A woman who saved him, not just from choking, but from a life that had grown numb. In the guest room, Shen Mo stared at the ceiling again, but this time it wasn't fear that kept her awake. It was the terrifying, beautiful feeling that she might have finally been seen. And worse, that she didn't want to leave in the morning. Not anymore. In Section 3, the offer she couldn't accept. The morning after the storm, light filtered through the penthouse windows in soft, golden streaks, an almost surreal contrast to the night before. Everything seemed calmer, quieter, but not in Shen Mo's chest. There, everything thundered. She had to leave. That was her first thought when her eyes opened. This wasn't her world. Glass walls, fresh orchids, espresso machines she didn't know how to work, and most dangerously, a man like Goo Han. A man who looked at her like he saw more than just a girl, with a battered past and borrowed dignity. She'd meant to slip out early. No note, no goodbye, just vanish the way she'd come. But life, like Goo Han, rarely followed her plans. Going somewhere? His voice, cool but not cold, greeted her at the door. Shen Mo froze, her backpack halfway zipped, shoes already on. I was just leaving without saying thank you? She turned. He was leaning against the doorframe, dark slacks, open collar, no tie. The picture of effortless control. But his eyes, those unreadable gray eyes, held something else. A trace of concern he didn't want to admit to. I didn't want to overstay. He walked in slowly, hands in pockets. You saved my life. A sandwich was trying to murder me, and you stepped in. The least I can do is offer you breakfast. She let out a breathy chuckle. Is that how you handle all your near-death experiences? He tilted his head. Only the ones that make me reevaluate my priorities. Her smile faded. He meant her. They ended up in the kitchen again, but this time it wasn't the dead of night, and he wasn't a stranger. There was music playing, low, some Sinatra classic, warm and nostalgic. He poured her coffee. I've been thinking, he said. That's always dangerous. He smirked. You're wasted out there. You have skills, talent, intelligence, and clearly nerves of steel. You walked into a billionaire's home and didn't quench. I flinched, she said softly. You just didn't see it. He leaned forward, elbows on the counter. Come work for me. The cup stopped halfway to her lips. Wait. I'm serious. I need a medical advisor for a new wellness division my company's launching. You'd have autonomy, security, access to resources, and no one would question your past because I wouldn't let them. It happened up there. Her throat tightened. I can't. Why not? She stood. Because people don't just get second chances handed to them on gold-plated trays. You didn't steal this. You earned it. You're a doctor. I was a doctor. Now I'm a liability. To who? To you. To anyone who bets on me. Her voice cracked. You think you're helping, but you're just putting a spotlight on someone who's learned to survive in the dark. He was quiet for a long moment. Maybe, he said finally, it's time you learn to survive in the light. She shook her head, stepping away. I can't risk the girls. You won't have to. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I have resources you don't. Security, legal protection, childcare support. Hell, I'll build a daycare on the top floor if that's what it takes. Her eyes flashed. You can't buy me. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to show you that your life doesn't have to end where your shame began. Silence. And then her whisper, what if I fail again? He softened. Then I'll be there to catch you. Her heart betrayed her with a flutter. She wasn't used to kindness without strings, offers without pity, and men who looked at her like she was worth rebuilding. She looked down at her hands, then at him. I need time. He nodded. Take all the time you need. But deep down, they both knew. Time wasn't the enemy. Trust was. And hers had been broken too many times to mend in a day. That night, Shen Mo didn't leave. But she didn't say yes either. She just stood on the balcony while the city lights blinked back at her. And somewhere below, life continued. Messy, brutal, beautiful. She wrapped her arms around herself. Inside, Goo Han watched from the shadows. And whispered to no one in particular. I'm not giving up on her. Session 4. The day the rain didn't stop. The rain had returned, soft at first, then insistent, as if the sky itself couldn't decide whether to wash the world clean or drown it in memories. Shen Mo watched it fall from the penthouse balcony, arms folded tight, sweater pulled high around her neck. The city below seemed distant, a dream she couldn't quite touch, but inside her, storms brewed harder than any weather outside. She should have left. She should never have stayed the night. But here she was, standing in a place too beautiful to belong to someone like her, with a man too dangerous to her heart. Inside, Goo Han stood at his desk, a contract in his hand, but his eyes weren't on the papers. They were on her. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked quietly, stepping closer. She didn't turn. "What's there to talk about? You made an offer. I said I needed time. Time won't change what I see in you." She let out a bitter laugh. "What do you see, Goo Han? A charity case? Some lost cause you can fix?" "No," he said, his voice firm now. "I see a woman who's stronger than she knows. Someone who saved my life and refuses to save her own." Her hands clenched at her sides. "I don't need saving." "Then stop running." A knock on the door interrupted the tension. Goo Han didn't move at first, eyes still locked on her, but when she wouldn't meet his gaze, he turned. The man at the door was older, in his 60s, with a gruff face softened by worry. His umbrella dripped water onto the marble floor as he stepped inside. "Ham," he said, nodding. "We have a problem." Shen Mo watched as Goo Han stiffened, something hardening in his jaw. "What now?" "Your photo, with her. It's out." She froze, where her voice barely carried. The older man looked at her, then back at Goo Han. Front page of every gossip site in the city. They're calling her everything. And you? They think you've lost your mind. The room seemed to shrink. Her face burned, shame crawling up her neck like fire. "You said no one would know." "I didn't expect this," Goo Han muttered, already pulling out his phone. "I'll handle it." "You can't handle this," she snapped, stepping forward. "You don't get to fix this." "No." Her voice cracked, loud against the glass and rain. "You don't know what they'll say, what they'll do. I've seen it before. People like me don't get redemption arcs, we get crucified." Goo Han moved to her, hands reaching but not touching. "Let them talk. You have nothing to be ashamed of." She shook her head violently. "Everything? I have everything to be ashamed of." The older man cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "There's more." Shen Mo looked at him, eyes wide. "What?" "They found out about your past. The trial, the license suspension, it's everywhere now." Her knees nearly buckled. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Goo Han was at her side instantly, steadying her. "It doesn't matter. I told you, I'll protect you." She wrenched away. "You can't protect me from myself." The rain pounded harder now, a relentless drumbeat against the windows. It was all too much. Too fast. To breathe. To run. She grabbed her coat, her bag, her hands shaking, and headed for the door. "Mo, don't." But she didn't look back. She couldn't. The city was a blur, gray and cold. She didn't know how long she walked, didn't care where her feet took her. She just needed to disappear, to find the shadows where she felt safe. Her phone buzzed, over and over. And she turned it off. The world could wait. But the rain wouldn't. It soaked her to the bone, but she didn't stop. Not until she reached the small park where she used to sit with the girls, back when life made sense, before sandwiches and CEOs and second chances she didn't deserve. She sat on the bench, head in her hands, and cried. For everything. "Mo." The voice cut through the storm like a thread of warmth. She looked up. Goo Han stood there, no umbrella, no coat, just him, drenched and breathless. "I told you," he said, stepping closer, "I'm not giving up." Her heart broke. "Why?" she choked. "Why me?" "Because," he said, kneeling before her, "the day I almost died was the day I found something worth living for." She shook her head. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do. I've never been more sure of anything." The rain didn't stop. But neither did he. He pulled something from his pocket, a folded piece of paper worn at the edges. She stared. "What's that?" He opened it, holding it out to her. It was a photo. Of her. And him. 10 years ago. Her breath hitched. I remember this. We met at a clinic downtown, he said softly. You treated my sister, you held her hand when no one else cared, and I never forgot your face. Tears mixed with rain as she clutched the photo. You knew? Not at first, but when I saw you again, I knew I couldn't lose you twice. She couldn't speak. Her heart was too full, too broken. Please, he whispered, come home. And in that moment, beneath a sky that wouldn't stop crying, she did. Because sometimes, when the rain refuses to end, it's not to drown you, able to wash everything else away. Section 5. The memory that wouldn't let go. The rain had passed, but it left behind a city that smelled of sorrow and fresh beginnings. Shen Mo stood by the window in Goo Han's apartment, her fingers brushing against the photo he had given her the night before. Her younger self smiled back at her, untouched by the storms life had yet to bring. The girl in that picture still believed in miracles. She wasn't sure if she did. Not yet. Behind her, the apartment was quiet. Goo Han had left early for meetings, his absence a silent gesture to give her space. But even with the room empty, she could feel him. His presence lingered in the air, strong, steady, impossible to ignore. She pressed the photo to her chest. There were things he didn't know. Things she had buried deep. Memories that wouldn't let go. Her phone buzzed on the table, snapping her out of thought. A message from the shelter. We need you. Please come. She hadn't been back since everything happened, since her life had become entangled with Goo Han's in ways she never could have predicted. But maybe it was time to face it, and to face herself. The shelter was quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes after too many tears. She walked in slowly, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. Mrs. Lee, the director, stood by the reception desk, her face lined with worry. Mo, she said, her voice soft. Thank you for coming. Shen Mo nodded. What's wrong? Mrs. Lee hesitated, then handed her a small, worn notebook. She left this for you. Mo's heart skipped. A girl, young, said you'd understand. She opened the notebook, fingers trembling. And there, on the first page, was a name she hadn't heard in years. Min Seo. The world tilted. Min Seo had been her first patient, the one she couldn't save. The reason she had walked away from medicine. Her knees buckled and she sank onto a chair, clutching the notebook like a lifeline. She came here, she whispered. Mrs. Lee nodded. She didn't stay, just left that and asked me to tell you she's okay. Mo flipped through the pages. Drawings, notes, memories of a girl who had once looked up to her like a hero. And on the last page, a simple message. You didn't fail me. I found my way because you cared. The tears came, silent and heavy. All this time, she had carried the weight of that loss, believing she wasn't enough, believing she didn't deserve to heal anyone ever again. But maybe she had made a difference, even in the pain. Outside, the sky was clearing. She stood, notebook in hand. There was something she needed to do. Goo Han sat in his office, papers spread across his desk, but his mind was elsewhere. On her. Always on her. The photo was still in his wallet, close to his heart. He hadn't told her everything. Not yet. There was a reason he had recognized her that day in the street. A reason he had sought her out before, even if she hadn't known. His phone rang. He answered without looking. Yes. Mr. Goo, his assistant said carefully. We've traced the leak. His jaw clenched. Who? There was a pause. Your cousin, Hua Lin Kai. The room went still. Of course. Lin Kai had never accepted him, never believed he was worthy of the family name, and now, this, exposing Mo's past to the world, to destroy them both. But he wouldn't let it happen. Not again. Shen Mo returned to the apartment as the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the floor. Goo Han wasn't back yet, but she didn't need him to be. Not for this. She sat at the kitchen table, the notebook open beside her, and began to write. Not to Min Seo. Not to Goo Han. To herself. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are worthy of love. The words flowed, raw and real, until the page was full, and when she finished, she felt lighter. Not whole, not yet, but less broken. The door opened behind her. She turned. Goo Han stood there, eyes tired but filled with something fierce. Mo, he said, stepping closer. There's something you need to know. She nodded, standing to meet him. Me too. But before either could speak, a sharp knock sounded at the door. They froze. Another knock. Insistent. Goo Han moved first, pulling the door open. And there, standing with a smug smile, was Hu Lin Kai. Because he said, stepping inside uninvited, "We need to talk." Shen Mo stiffened, every instinct on alert. Goo Han blocked him. "Whatever you have to say it now." Lin Kai's eyes flicked to Mo, cold and calculating. "You really think she's worth all this trouble? You're risking everything for her." "I'm not risking anything," Goo Han said, voice like steel. "I'm fighting for what matters." Lin Kai laughed, low and bitter. "Then, you've already lost." He tossed something on the table. A photo of Shen Mo in a courtroom from the trial. Mo's breath caught. The memory she couldn't let go. "I wonder what your shareholders will say," Lin Kai mused. "What your precious reputation will become." Goo Han stepped forward, fist clenched. But Mo touched his arm. "No," she said softly. "Let me." She turned to Lin Kai, eyes clear. "You don't scare me, not anymore." And in that moment, something shifted. Because some memories are wounds. But others? They're the fire that forges strength. Section 6. The photo, the press, and the price of truth. The flashbulbs exploded outside the building like firecrackers on a stormy night. Cameras clicked, voices shouted, headlines were being written in real time. CEO's mysterious girlfriend linked to medical fraud? Ishin court photo services. Who is Shen Mo really? Goo Han stood still at the glass window of his office, high above the street-level chaos. The sky was an indifferent gray. Inside him, a storm brewed hotter than anything the tabloids could imagine. The photo Lin Kai had dropped last night, Mo standing in a courtroom years ago, had gone viral overnight. And it wasn't just a photo. It was her past, dragged back into the light. Twisted, misunderstood, weaponized. The press didn't care about facts. They wanted blood. And Goo Han had always been a convenient target. The unlucky CEO now caught in a love scandal. But he didn't care about his image. He cared about her. Shen Mo hadn't said much since the photo dropped. She hadn't needed to. He had seen it in her eyes, the same look she wore when she first walked into his world. Quiet resilience, wounded pride, a lifetime of holding her breath around people who only saw what they wanted to see. She was sitting now in his apartment, cross-legged on the couch, flipping through her old notebook. "I should leave," she said quietly, not looking up. "No. Con." He turned from the window. "Don't." Her voice cracked. "You don't even know the full story. I was accused of malpractice. They said I faked my credentials, that I botched a procedure. I didn't. But they made sure I couldn't prove it." He stepped closer. "And you never told anyone?" She shook her head. "No one wanted the truth. I thought if I stayed quiet, I could survive it." "But surviving isn't the same as living." "I know that now." He knelt before her, took her hand. "Then let me help you fight." But the press was merciless. By noon, Goo Han's face was plastered beside Mo's on every major financial and gossip site. The board demanded answers. Stocks wavered. His assistant warned him not to be seen with her. His reply was simple: fire anyone who says that again. Meanwhile, Lin Kai stirred the flames. At a press conference, he spoke with practiced concern. I only want what's best for the company. I hope my cousin isn't being manipulated by someone with less than noble intentions. The cameras loved it. The betrayal was public. The war had begun. Later that night, Goo Han called a meeting. Not in a boardroom. Not in a penthouse. At the community clinic Mo used to volunteer at, the very place that had been shuttered after her trial. He stood in front of reporters, investors, board members, and every curious eye the city had to offer. And stood beside him, in the open, unhidden, unafraid. I know what you've read, he began, and I know what some of you are thinking, but I'm not here to spin a story. I'm here to tell the truth. He glanced at her, and she nodded. He continued. Shen Mo was accused, yes, but she wasn't convicted. The evidence that cleared her? Buried. The girl she tried to save, Min Seo, walked into a shelter just last week, healthy and alive. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. She saved her, and she's saved more people than any of us will know. Someone asked, and what does that mean for your future with the company? Goo Han didn't hesitate. I'd rather lose a company than lose my conscience. A pause. Then something unexpected happened. Clapping. From the back of the room. Then more. Applause not from reporters or execs, but from patients, families, old staff members who had once worked with Mo. And somewhere in the noise, a voice called out, "She saved my daughter." Mo's breath caught. A woman stepped forward holding a toddler's hand. You were the only doctor who didn't give up on her. Thank you. Goo Han took Mo's hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. That night, as they walked home, neither of them spoke for a long time. Then he stopped under a flickering street lamp. I saw you in that photo and thought, she's fighting ghosts no one else can see, but you don't have to fight alone anymore. Mo looked up, her voice barely a whisper. What if they keep coming for me? Then why stay? His eyes locked onto hers. Because you're the first thing I've ever fought for that actually mattered. At that, she did something she hadn't in years. She leaned into him, not out of fear, but trust. The next morning, Goo Han received a letter. It wasn't from a lawyer or a board member. It was handwritten, faded around the edges. A letter from Mo's former patient, Min Seo herself. You gave me someone who believed in me. Please believe in her. And just like that, the tide began to turn. A truth louder than any headline. A love louder than any lie. But the war wasn't over. Lin Kai wasn't done. And the next strike would come from someone they never expected. Section 7. The man who wouldn't let go. The city lights stretched out like veins beneath the glass floor of Lin Kai's private office. High above the rest of the world, he watched from his throne of wealth and power, but tonight, neither brought him comfort. A photo of Goo Han and Shen Mo from the clinic's press conference was frozen on his massive screen. They looked untouchable, unbreakable. He smashed a glass against the wall. They weren't supposed to win. And she wasn't supposed to still have him. Lin Kai wasn't just another board member. He was family. Or at least, that's what Goo Han had once believed. Their fathers had built the company together, bound by ambition but separated by legacy. Lin Kai had always been the shadow, the almost heir, the man behind the curtain, watching, waiting for his turn. But Goo Han had stolen the spotlight. And now, Lin Kai was ready to take it back. Across the city, Goo Han stood in his apartment, his sleeves rolled up, lost in thought. The fight wasn't over. They had survived the storm, but the damage lingered. His company, Huan Corp, was teetering. The board demanded a vote of confidence, investors threatened to pull out, and behind it all, Lin Kai kept pulling strings, twisting knives in the dark. But none of that mattered as much as the woman standing silently in his kitchen. Mornings chopping vegetables. It was so simple, so ordinary, and yet he couldn't take his eyes off her. "Are you sure you want this?" she asked softly. He walked over, taking the knife from her hand, setting it down. "I've never been more sure." She tried to smile, but her hands trembled. Later that night, Goo Han received an unexpected message. From Lin Kai. "Meet me, alone. The place we used to go as kids. Midnight." Mo didn't want him to go. But he had to. There were ghosts that needed to be faced. The rooftop of the old Huan Corp building was just as he remembered it. Cold, windy, haunted. Lin Kai was already there, leaning against the railing, cigarette in hand. "You came," Lin Kai said without turning. "He called." Kai laughed bitterly. "Still loyal, still predictable." "What do you want?" Kai finally turned, his eyes sharp, hollow. "You don't get it, do you? This was never about her. It was always about us." Goo Han stepped forward. "You want my company." "I want my life back. You were never promised this." "I was promised more than scraps." The wind held between them, carrying years of resentment, unspoken truths, and broken trust. "You think love will save you?" Kai spat. "She's a distraction. She'll leave you like everyone else. She's not like them. She's not worthy of you." Goo Han's jaw clenched. "You don't get to decide that." Silence. Then Lin Kai pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. "I was going to propose to her." Goo Han's heart stopped. 3 years ago, before you even knew her name, I was the one who found her, helped her get back on her feet. She came to me after the trial. I believed in her." Goo Han staggered back, disbelief crashing over him. "She never told me." Kai's voice broke. "Because she didn't want to hurt you. Or maybe she didn't want you." Kai's face twisted. "You think you've won? You think love is enough? The board votes tomorrow. I'll bury you, Han." Back at the apartment, Goo Han didn't sleep. He watched Mo as she lay beside him, peaceful, unaware of the storm waiting to swallow them whole. Morning light crept in, and with it the weight of choice. The boardroom was packed. Every eye turned to Goo Han as he entered. Lin Kai sat smugly at the head of the table. "The meeting will now come to order," the chairman announced. But Goo Han raised his hand. "Before we begin, I have something to say." Murmurs rippled. This company was built on trust, on family, but somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that. I won't fight for power. I won't fight for pride. He looked directly at Lin Kai. "I'll fight for truth." He pulled out a document. "This is proof that Lin Kai has been siphoning funds into shell companies for years. Hidden accounts, stolen profits." Gasps. Lin Kai jumped to his feet. "Lies? Check the accounts." The room erupted. Hours later, the verdict was in. Lin Kai was stripped of his title. Goo Han remained. But the victory was hollow. That night, Goo Han returned to find Mo waiting, tears in her eyes. "You knew about Kai," he said. "I did." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to lose you." He stepped closer. "And now?" She placed something in his hand. A photo. Of the three of them, taken years ago. Before the war. Before the lies. Before love changed everything. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she whispered. "I know." He pulled her close. "I won't let go." But the past wasn't finished with them yet. A letter arrived the next day. From Lin Kai. One last move. One last secret. And this time it would cost them everything. Session 8. The confrontation, the crash, and the call that changed everything. The envelope lay unopened on Goo Han's desk for hours. He stared at it as if its contents might vanish if he ignored it long enough. But the weight of it, the final message from Lin Kai, hung over him like a storm that refused to pass. Mo sat across the room, her fingers laced tightly in her lap. "Are you going to open it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," he replied. But the truth was, he had to. The letter was short. "If I can't have peace, neither will you. You think you've won, but you haven't even begun to lose. Meet me where it all started, or everything you've built will burn." It was signed simply, LK. The place where it all started. There was only one place Lin Kai could mean. The old estate outside the city where their fathers first formed the foundations of Huang Corp. A place now abandoned, left to rot along with the dreams that had once built it. Mo followed him to the door. "I'm going with you," she said firmly. "No," he shook his head. "It's too dangerous. I'm not leaving you alone with him." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. "Please, I need you safe. Stay here." She hesitated, her heart pounding, but finally nodded. "Come back to me," she whispered. "I will." The estate was cloaked in fog when Goo Han arrived, the air thick with decay and memory. Inside, everything was just as they'd left it years ago. Dusty, broken, forgotten. Lin Kai stood by the fireplace, a drink in hand, as if he owned the place. "You came," Kai said, almost pleased. "Get to the point." Kai turned, eyes gleaming. "I warned you. I told you I'd take it all." "You've already lost." Kai laughed bitterly. "No, I still have one card left." He pulled out a small device, a remote. "What is that?" "Insurance," Kai said. "You see, I've planted something at Huang Corp's headquarters. You don't play by my rules, and boom, everything's gone." Goo Han lunged, but Kai stepped back. "From push, that's all it takes." "You're insane." "No," Kai whispered. "I'm free." Back in the city, Mo's phone rang. It was Goo Han's assistant. "Miss Shen, you need to come to the office. Something's wrong." Her heart sank. Without thinking, she grabbed her coat and ran. At the estate, Goo Han's fists clenched. "You won't hurt them?" Kai smirked. "Try me." Suddenly, Goo Han's phone buzzed. A message from Mo. "I'm at the office. Something feels wrong." Panic surged through him. "Call it off, Kai." But Kai's finger hovered over the button. "Say goodbye, Han." A crash of glass. A struggle. The remote flew from Kai's hand. They felt years of betrayal, anger, and pain erupting in violent fury. Goo Han pinned him down. "You're done." But Kai smiled. "And forgot, I'm not alone." Back at the office, Mo stepped into the lobby and froze. Smoke. Alarms. Chaos. A fire had started on the lower floors, spreading fast. "Goo Han," she cried, pulling out her phone. But there was no signal. She had to get out. Goo Han raced from the estate, leaving Kai in the dust, his mind on fire. No. He had to get to her. The streets blurred. Lights, sirens, screams. As Goo Han reached the building, the upper floors were already ablaze. He pushed through the crowd, through the barricades. "Mo," he shouted. No answer. Inside, Mo coughed, her eyes stinging. She was trapped. The stairwell was blocked. She stumbled into the conference room, windows shattering from the heat. And then her phone buzzed. A call. "Goo Han. Mo, where are you?" "Top floor," she choked. "I'm coming, hold on." He didn't hesitate. Through smoke, through fire, he climbed. Floor by floor. Pain seared his lungs, but he didn't stop. When he reached her, she was slumped against the wall, barely conscious. "Ma!" Her eyes fluttered open. "You came. Always." And he lifted her into his arms. "We're getting out of here." The world was collapsing around them. They reached the rooftop, no way down. Until a rescue chopper appeared, its lights cutting through the darkness. A ladder dropped. Goo Han secured Mo, climbing with everything he had left. As they rose above the flames, he held her close. "It's over," he whispered. Later, in the hospital, Mo awoke to find Goo Han at her side, his hand wrapped around hers. "You saved me," she said. He smiled, weary but alive. "You saved me first." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I lost you." "Never." But the cost was heavy. The building was gone. Huan Corp was in ruins. And Sun Kai had vanished. And yet, in that moment, none of it mattered. They had each other. And that was enough. Section 9. The Mother, the Memory, and the Moment of Truth. The air in the hospital room was heavy with silence. Goo Han sat by Mo's bedside, watching the steady rise and fall of her chest. The bandages on her arm, the faint bruises along her cheek, they were a cruel reminder of how close he had come to losing her. But beneath the pain, something deeper stirred. A truth he had buried. A name he hadn't spoken in years. Mr. Goo. He turned to see the nurse standing at the door. "There's someone here to see you." "Now's not a good time." She said her name as Mei Lin. His breath caught. Mei Lin. The woman who had given birth to him and disappeared. She stood in the hallway, older, frailer, but unmistakable. "Han." He stared, speechless. "It's been a long time. What are you doing here?" "I heard about the fire," she said softly. "I needed to see you." They sat in the hospital's quiet lounge, the world outside moving in slow motion. "You shouldn't have come," he said coldly. "I had to." "So you left. You gave up." "I was forced to," she whispered. "I never stopped loving you." The memories came flooding back. He was 10. Standing in the doorway, watching her walk away. His father's voice, harsh and final. He chose her own life. "I didn't choose to leave you," she said, her voice shaking. "Your father, he sent me away." "Why?" "Because I knew too much." Goo Han's fists clenched. "And these years?" "I've been watching," Mei Lin said, "from afar. I've seen what you've become. I'm proud of you." He stood, pacing. "You think that makes it better? I needed you." "I know," she said, tears brimming. "But I'm here now." "Why now?" "Because you're in danger, and you need to know the truth about your father." The words hit like a punch. "My father's dead." "But his secrets aren't," she said. Lin Kai wasn't working alone. Mo stirred in her bed, her eyes fluttering open. "Han." He rushed back to her side. "I'm here." She reached for his hand, squeezing it weakly. "I had a dream. About your father." "What?" "He was talking to someone. I couldn't see who." Later, as the sun set, Mei Lin stood by the window, watching Goo Han hold Mo's hand. "You left her." He nodded. "She's the only one who's ever seen me." Mei Lin took a deep breath. "There's something you need to see." Back at Goo Han's apartment, she opened a small box. Inside, a stack of letters. Written in his father's handwriting. "They're about you," Malin said, "and about Huancourt." He picked one up, his hands trembling. "Han will never know the truth. He can't. The sins of this company would destroy him." Goo Han read them all. His father had built Huancourt on lies. On betrayals, including the betrayal of Malin. "It wasn't just Kai," Malin said. "It was bigger, and now they're coming for you." The next day, Goo Han called an emergency board meeting. "I know what you've all done," he said, standing at the head of the table. Shock rippled through the room. "I have proof. My father's letters, the deals he made, the people he hurt." One of the directors stood. "You don't want to do this." "Yes, I do." He handed over the letters. "Clean this up, or I will." After the meeting, Mo waited for him outside. "You're shaking," she said. "I just tore down everything I thought I stood for." She touched his face. "Now you can build something real." That night, he sat with Mei Lin. "I can't forgive you," he said. "Not yet. I understand. But I'm glad you came back." She smiled, bittersweet. "So am I." As the city slept, Goo Han stood at the window, Mo's head resting on his shoulder. "What now?" she asked. "Now we fight." And for the first time, he didn't feel alone. Section 10. The courtroom, the confession, and the choice that set them free. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Reporters crowded near the entrance, flashes from cameras igniting the space like lightning in a storm, whispers echoed, speculation dancing through the air like smoke. But for Goo Han, seated beside his attorney, none of it mattered. Today wasn't about his reputation. It wasn't about money. It was about truth. And about her. Mo sat quietly in the front row, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on him. Their eyes met for a brief, electric moment. He gave her a small nod. And then the judge entered. "I'll rise." The charges against Huancourt were serious. Fraud, conspiracy, manipulation of market data, and Goo Han had chosen to expose it all, even if it meant tearing down everything his father had built. Even if it meant risking jail. The prosecution began. They painted Huancourt as a machine of corruption. Then they turned to him. The CEO, Goo Han, knowingly benefited from this fraud. He continued to run the company while its foundations were rotting beneath him. His attorney rose. "Objection. Mr. Goo has brought forward the evidence himself. He's not hiding. He's seeking justice." The judge nodded. Sustained. Hours passed. Witnesses were called. Documents shown. Every word felt like a hammer, pounding against the walls Goo Han had so carefully built. And yet, he stood tall. Because he knew the truth would set him free. When his time came, he took the stand. "I am not here to defend Huancourt," he began. "I'm here to expose it." Gasps rippled through the gallery. "My father, the founder, built this empire on lies. I discovered letters, his own handwriting, detailing how he manipulated the market, bribed officials, and silenced those who got in his way." He paused, his throat tightening. "I was raised to believe in power, but I've learned that real power is in the truth." The prosecutor stepped forward. "Why come forward now?" "Because I met someone who showed me there's more to life than wealth." He looked at Mo. "She taught me that you don't have to carry your father's sins. You can choose your own path." The courtroom was silent. Later, as the trial recessed for deliberation, Mo found him outside beneath the cold, gray sky. "You did it," she said softly. "I don't know what they'll decide." She touched his chest. "You already made the right choice." A day later, the verdict came. Goo Han was acquitted of personal charges. His whistleblowing had saved him. But the company? Ordered to restructure, to repay damages, to start again from the ground up. He stood on the steps of the courthouse, reporters swarming him. "What now, Mr. Goo?" He looked at Mo, who stood by his side. "Now I live, honestly, freely, with love." They left the cameras behind. Weeks passed. Goo Han resigned as CEO. He sold his shares, gave most of his fortune to those harmed by the company's deceit. He and Mo moved into a small home on the edge of the city. No penthouse, no chauffeurs. Just them. One night, as rain tapped gently on the windows, he knelt before her. "Marry me." She blinked, stunned. "I don't have the world to give you, but I have myself, and everything I am." Tears filled her eyes. "You saved me, Han, not with money, but with love." She knelt beside him. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Their wedding was small, just friends, a few of the people they'd helped. Mei Lin was there, smiling through tears, holding Mo's hand as she walked down the aisle. And when Goo Han kissed his bride, he knew. For the first time in his life, he was truly free. Free from the past. Free to love. Free to choose a future built not on power, but on truth. Years later, they opened a clinic together, Mo using her skills to heal, Goo Han to manage. They named it Second Chances, because that's what life had given them. True love is found in honesty, not wealth. The past doesn't define you, your choices do. Forgiveness and truth can build a life stronger than any empire, when love is the only wealth left. The city skyline didn't matter anymore. Not the towers, not the deals, not the name that once gleamed in gold on the tallest building downtown. Goo Han stood in the garden behind their small home, hands wrapped around a cup of tea Mo had made, watching the wind stir the blossoms of the peach tree they had planted together. There was no audience now, no shareholders, no flashing cameras. Just the quiet, just her. She stepped outside, barefoot, her dress fluttering around her legs, the evening sun casting her in a golden light. "You're thinking again," she said softly, walking over, resting her head against his shoulder. "About everything," he admitted, "about how far we've come." They had lost almost everything in the eyes of the world, titles, fortune, status. But they had gained what the world could never measure. Peace. Mo smiled, slipping her hand into his. "Do you regret it?" He turned, eyes locking with hers, filled with a certainty that time could never shake. And for a second, he remembered the first time he saw her, on the sidewalk, drenched in rain, fearless in saving his life when no one else dared. She had no idea who he was then. And he had no idea that she would become everything. Now they shared a life not built on marble floors or silk ties, but on late nights cooking together, laughter spilling in their tiny kitchen, walks through the park where children called them by name. They were part of something real. Not an empire of glass, but a home of warmth. One evening, as they sat together under the stars, Mo pulled out an old envelope, worn but carefully kept. "What's this?" Goo Han asked, curious. "A letter?" she whispered. "I wrote it the night before the trial, in case things didn't go the way we hoped." He opened it slowly, heart beating, and read the words she had once been too afraid to say aloud. "Han, if you're reading this, it means you've done something I always knew you could. Choose truth over fear, love over power. I want you to know, no matter what happens, I believe in you. I've always believed in you. And if life ever gives us another chance, I will spend every moment reminding you of the man you are, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. With all my love." More. His throat tightened, eyes glistening. "I'd wish I'd read this sooner." She took his hand, kissed his fingers gently. "You didn't need to. You showed me every day." They sat in silence, wrapped in each other, the world finally at peace around them. Sometimes, life doesn't give you what you expect. Sometimes it gives you something better. They didn't need millions anymore. They had something richer, a life built on love, a future that was truly theirs. And as the wind carried the scent of blossoms through the air, Goo Han whispered the words he had waited a lifetime to say. "If you are my everything." And Mo, smiling with tears in her eyes, replied, "And you are mine." This story isn't just about a billionaire and a beggar. It's about second chances, about the courage to walk away from power for something greater, about love that heals, and about how sometimes the richest life is the one stripped of everything except the truth.
Thank you for watching today's CEO Love Stories. Every love story is a journey, one filled with passion, ambition, sacrifice, and unforgettable moments. Here at CEO Love Stories, we bring you the most compelling tales where power, success, and love collide. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like to support more incredible content. Comment your thoughts. Can love overcome power and ambition? Subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss our next breathtaking romance. CEO Love Stories, where love and power collide. Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. See you in the next story.